All right, welcome to the weekly Go Buy Breece Hall video where we're going to go through. I'm going to do my best to try to convince you to add Breece Hall. Okay, all jokes aside, I'm sorry you're not going to be able to get Hall anymore. If you didn't listen to us before, I don't know. I can't help you out. But before we get into the new running backs that we think are maybe a little bit undervalued, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And of course, we will be live streaming tonight. So hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to our live streams. And if you have any questions and you can't make it to the live stream, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'm going to be going through answering as many of those as I can. Last but not least, this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Go check out Underdog Fantasy with the link in the comments, the link in the description of the video. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So I'll go deposit $10. You'll automatically have $20 in your account. You can play Underdog Fantasy damn near anywhere. Get into some real money fantasy football drafts with us. We're doing those pretty much every night on the live stream. And also, just looking ahead for this week, not all the player props are already out, but that Jeff Wilson under 84.5 rushing yards maybe looks a little appealing. That's all I got for you. Let's go through. Let's dive into this video, starting off with Breece Hall. Now, I feel like we have to. I feel like I deserve to. We have included Breece Hall in our must-draft running backs. We've included him as a buy low running back every single week for the past 2 months, it seems like. So can I at least give an update? Breece Hall, week 2, 28% of his team snaps. Week 3, 53%. Week 4, 65%. Week 5, 69%. Just going through increasing his usage in this New York Jets offense every single week. We talked about him coming into the season as that elite prospect up there with the likes of guys like Jonathan Taylor. We compared his start to his rookie season, similar to what you had with JT in 2020, Nick Chubb in 2018. Could not be more excited to see this with Breece Hall. Not only has he increased his snaps consistently, but also his carries per game have gone up every single week this season. This past week, 18 carries, 97 rushing yards, the rushing touchdown. He also had 100 receiving yards. Yeah, a lot of that came on a busted play, but still, dear God, could not be more excited about Breece Hall. Almost 200 total yards this past week. Now, can I technically include him as a buy low running back? No. I mean, nobody's trading you Breece Hall now. Should have gone through, should have traded for him earlier this season, but maybe someone you can trade for right now is going to be DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift was on our buy low running back video last week. He's going to be on it this week, and I can tell you right now he'll be on it the next week as well. With DeAndre Swift, we are expecting that, yes, he was going to miss week 5 because they have the week 6 bye. So you are not going to see any videos this week about DeAndre Swift. You are not going to hear anybody talk about him because he's on bye naturally. What is so weird with these players that miss 2 to 3 weeks in fantasy football, regardless of if it's due to an injury, regardless of if it's an injury leading into a bye week, people forget the talent of that player. People forget who he is. It sounds crazy. You would never think that it would actually happen, but I'm live streaming 5 hours every single day answering these questions. And I see people getting some crazy values on DeAndre Swift. I guess it kind of makes sense if you look at the past 2 weeks. Against Washington 2 weeks ago, the man only had 5 carries. Against Minnesota, he only had 7 carries. He has also been getting vultured at the goal line by Jamal Williams. I am not too concerned at all from what you saw with DeAndre Swift with his last 2 weeks healthy, because remember, DeAndre Swift was dealing with those nagging injuries. DeAndre Swift was in and out of the game. I think DeAndre Swift sitting 2 weeks and then getting his bye is exactly what he needed to come back at 100%. Don't deal with any of these nagging injuries rest of season. Let's get healthy. Going back to week 1, when you had a healthy DeAndre Swift, 144 rushing yards, the rushing touchdown, 31 receiving yards. We know that he is one of the best passing down running backs in the NFL. With DeAndre Swift, we are specifically going to be targeting him in a PPR format. We'll have someone for a non-PPR league at the end of the video. Obviously, if you're looking at Swift, there is a real concern with Jamal Williams and his goal line role. I don't really care if Jamal Williams is going to get the carries between the 20s. Hell, those carries don't really equal fantasy points anyway. I just want DeAndre Swift to get every target out of the backfield and have the red zone usage in Detroit. It's an elite offensive line. I think that people are honestly disrespecting DeAndre Swift ever so slightly. I think that we could buy him now, or if you want to wait a week, hell, wait a week, buy him next. Now our next guy, this will be the last stud that we talk about. After this, it'll be a much cheaper players. Jonathan Taylor. Now, I would just not be able to live with myself if we did not go through and at least say out loud on a video this week that if you were playing in a league where you are going to get a 20% discount on Jonathan Taylor, where you're going to be able to go through, trade Dalvin Cook for JT, trade Derrick Henry for JT, do it, please. Based on all reports, this isn't a typical high ankle sprain where you're going to expect that Jonathan Taylor is out a month. I'm very happy that they rested him this past week against the Denver Broncos. And I know everybody's panicking because even before he was rested, 54 rushing yards, 71 rushing yards, 42 rushing yards. I mean, obviously, JT was not his prime self. And on top of this, the Indianapolis Colts offense has looked like a train wreck. We talked about Matt Ryan not being as good as people thought he was coming into the season. But in reality, if we're looking at the underlying numbers for JT, this is still a running back that's averaging 4 targets a game. This is still a running back that's averaging over 20 carries a game. I'm happy they rested him on the short week. I think coming back in, he's going to be that featured down RB, essentially a younger Derrick Henry that's slightly more involved as a pass catcher. I mean, yes, I'm not a massive fan of this offense, as we've discussed for a very long time now, but hell, if the volume's there and he's an elite level running back, people are worried. I'll buy him at a 10 to 20% discount. But now going over to our next guy, Travis Etienne. With Travis Etienne, oh my gosh, people gave up on him way too soon. You're looking at the past 4 weeks, very similar to Breece Hall, increasing his usage, increasing his snaps every week. Week 2, 36% of the snaps in Jacksonville. Week 3, 43% of the snaps. Week 4, 51% of the snaps. Week 5, 56% of the snaps. I mean, James Robinson's made some highlight plays. I want to root for James Robinson. I mean, if you think about a storyline with these players, are you more willing to root for Travis Etienne, the running back that was an elite level high school recruit going to Clemson, dominated in college, was a first-round NFL draft pick, or do you want to root for the undrafted free agent that people picked up off the waiver wire his rookie season that ended up overcoming all odds, turned into an NFL star? Then Travis Etienne was drafted to replace him in the first round. He tears his Achilles. You think he's done, and he comes back from nowhere. Everybody wants to root for James Robinson. I get it. I would want to root for him as well. But if we go back to what we've seen with NFL teams since the start of the league, I mean, since I was born, I can't remember anything beyond that. But time and time again, these coaching staffs, these organizations want to get the ball to the guy that they are invested into. You'll see that common trend later on in this video. They're heavily invested into Travis Etienne. This Jacksonville Jaguars overall team doesn't look as good as what they did at the beginning part of the year, where they were going out there shutting out the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, looks like James Robinson is going to have the goal line role. It looks like James Robinson is going to be the short area running back. I don't expect that to change. I still expect that James Robinson is heavily involved, but Travis Etienne specifically for a full PPR format, just as we discussed with DeAndre Swift, looks like he's trending in the right direction. And keep in mind, the man has played 5 games. He has played 5 games in his NFL career, essentially just a rookie. Now let's go over and let's look at David Montgomery. Now with David Montgomery in Chicago, I actually drafted him a decent amount of him this year. Like, if I'm going to be honest with you, we were getting him in the 6th round of high stakes leagues. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Montgomery fan. I think this offense is going to be horrendous, but I'll sign up for it. And a big reasoning with this is the overall thought process people have of Khalil Herbert turning this into a running back by committee. I was worried about that happening in week 5. I thought that David Montgomery's first week back, it would be a running back by committee and Montgomery would go back to being that guy in the long term here. Reality, hell, David Montgomery said, nope. Just like what we saw in 2021. In 2021, Khalil Herbert was phenomenal when he stepped in for David Montgomery. You had a 4-week stretch of 18 carries, 19 carries, 18 carries, 23 carries, a 4-game stretch where the man's going out there and he's averaging 20 carries a game with Khalil Herbert and looking good while doing it. What did they decide to do in 2021? Yes, it was a different coaching staff, but they went through. The second they got David Montgomery back, they're like, okay, Khalil Herbert, you're back to being a backup here, my friend. 4 carries, 1, 4, 4, 1, 0, 2, 2, 4. I mean, here, they just completely reverted him to that backup role. We saw the same thing this season, where with Khalil Herbert, when he stepped in against the Houston Texans, when David Montgomery went down, he gave the Chicago Bears a better running back performance than David Montgomery has ever. David Montgomery drafted in 2019, and Khalil Herbert against the Houston Texans had more rushing yards in that one game than David Montgomery's ever had in his entire NFL career. Yet, David Montgomery comes back this week against Minnesota. Khalil Herbert, 4 carries, 11 rushing yards. Going right back to being that backup. So David Montgomery, very similar to Najee Harris. I mean, we talked about both these running backs coming into the season saying they're both 3-down RBs and piss-poor offenses that aren't uber athletic. But if we're going to be looking at which guy we want with the projected volume, say the guy that's going in the 6th round, not the guy that's going in the 1st, I think you can still get that value on David Montgomery. Now, going over to our next backfield, I hate him. I don't know how we're saying to buy him low, but y'all know we're doing those underdog drafts constantly. You can go get in a real money best ball draft now on underdog. And I'm taking Ezekiel Elliott. I've been drafting Ezekiel Elliott there because you're getting him outside the top 100 picks. And with Zeke, he's looked bad. 3.8 yards per carry compared to Tony Pollard at 5.6. And we talked about it. The 3 years coming into this season, why I wasn't drafting Ezekiel Elliott is Tony Pollard was the much more efficient running back in Dallas, where Ezekiel Elliott had clearly looked like he lost a step. But going back to what we were discussing previously in Jacksonville, for whatever reason, maybe you blame it on the run blocking of Tony Pollard versus Ezekiel Elliott. That's what most smart people would say. But I'm going to try to dumb it down here, and I'm going to say, look at the contract. Look at the team investment. Ezekiel Elliott, despite being pretty disappointing so far this season from a per touch standpoint. 10 carries week 1, 15, 15, 19, then 22. His role is not going anywhere. He has increased his carries pretty much every single week this season, similar to Breece Hall. Now, of course, a lot of this has to do with game environment. I don't necessarily want to say that this is a guarantee going forward with Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, if you're going to get 17, 18 carries per game, you're ecstatic regardless of if it goes up or not, because you can get him at such a cheap price when nobody likes Zeke. But this offensive line should get healthier going forward. I know Cooper Rush, 5-0 as a starter. I would love to know your opinion in the comment section below. If you think that there's any type of quarterback controversy here, I think that when Dak Prescott comes back, this offense will be better. So if Ezekiel Elliott has this role, if he's had 81 carries so far this season with 1 rushing touchdown, in a non-PPR format, I want to go after Zeke. Obviously, in a full PPR league, you go Etienne. Non-PPR, you go Ezekiel Elliott, because the worst thing was Zeke, to be completely honest with you. So we're 5 weeks in, and the man has 7 targets. 5 weeks in, and the man has 7 targets. Not excited about Ezekiel Elliott, but it gets to be a point where even if I don't like the guy, I mean, if we're getting him outside the top 100 picks in drafts right now, where I'm assuming that you can go through and trade literally a little can of Pringles and go get him in your league, that would be nice. Now, going over to our next RB, this is going to be a backup. Alexander Madison. With Alexander Madison, I just want to bring up the usage that we have in Minnesota. I actually thought with the London game where Alexander Madison scored the touchdown that honestly, people were a little bit too worried about Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook was someone that maybe we go and target on the low. This is the second straight week with Alexander Madison having a large role. Dalvin Cook, 45 snaps. Alexander Madison, 34. Alexander Madison, 19 routes run compared to Dalvin Cook at 17. Alexander Madison had 4 targets this past week with Dalvin Cook in this game. Now, I am not saying this and going, oh, trade for Alexander Madison. You can play him during the bye weeks. No, I just like to see that this new coaching staff really likes Madison, confirming what we've had over the past few seasons, that if Dalvin Cook were to go down, which, hell, we've already had a small glimpse of that so far this season, Alexander Madison is immediately, and I repeat, immediately, a top 5 running back in fantasy. Like, seriously, just go through this thought experiment. Dalvin Cook goes down week 6. Week 7 comes around. Who do I rank Alexander Madison behind? Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, maybe. And that's it. So we've historically seen that Alexander Madison going to get 5 to 6 targets a game, going to get over 20 carries in any game that Dalvin Cook misses. Now going over to our last guy, I'm going to put a massive asterisk on here. Y'all know I said a week ago to wait until this Arizona Cardinals offense struggled against Philadelphia, and then in week 6, we were going to go through and try to trade for James Conner. So I need to give an update with the plan. Obviously, James Conner dealing with the rib injury. I think he probably doesn't play week 6. Knowing the long list of injuries in James Conner's NFL career, I mean, they're saying he's okay, but looking at what just happened with Alvin Kamara with the rib injury, James Conner suffered one of these last season as well. I would imagine that James Conner misses week 6, and then afterwards, his value will be at an all-time low. Obviously, he hasn't been a startable player so far this season, but maybe we push the timeline back on when we're looking to trade for James Conner. Maybe wait until about week 7, week 8, when nobody's thinking about him, when you have DeAndre Hopkins coming back into Arizona, and when this should be a much better offense overall. But thank you. That's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. I hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight. And of course, if you want to check out any of these cool player props on Underdog Fantasy, link in the comment section, link in the description. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100 with promo code FLOCK. And make sure you go take advantage of the Jeff Wilson under. Maybe the line moves by the time you get to it, but as of now, 84.5. I'm taking that under. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.